All right, welcome on into East Texas now. We have our very own Dr. Meredith Stanaland with the Nacogdoches Animal Hospital. You're joining us because we're talking about one of those things that, it doesn't become a problem until it's a problem, right? Ear infections or just ear issues with our pets. I mean, I think I've seen my cat really mainly the only one out of my bunch that has ever had issues, and it's just that shaking, that initial shaking where you're like, okay, what are we doing? What's going on? So, to kind of kick us all off and get us introduced to the idea, how common are ear infections or just ear issues with pets?
Yeah, no, this is probably one of the most common things that we see as a general practitioner. Ears and skin. I mean, there's not a day that's gone by in my life, as I've been working as a veterinarian, almost 25 years, where we don't see an ear infection. We see it every day in our dogs and in our cats, and it's something that's unfortunately very, very common.
So, is it due to just debris get into the ear, into the little cavity, or could it be allergies or what have you? How does it all
Yeah.
get started?
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons that it's so common is that there's so many things that can cause it. The most common thing that we'll see is that, when our dogs or our cats bathe or get water in their ears, either they're outside rolling in the grass or there's been a storm, or we like to live in East Texas where it's 100% humidity each and every day. They have a horizontal and a vertical ear canal. So if a little bit of water or moisture gets in there, it'll perpetuate yeast, which will then create an infection. So that's one of the most common reasons. There's tons of other reasons from anatomy, allergies, food allergies, endocrine disorders like thyroid disease. We can talk about more and more, but the most common thing is just unfortunately, the environment that we live in and their anatomy just allows them to make infections so easily.
I didn't even think about the air pressure or just the weather making that, kind of impact. But you're so right because, you know, even just any kind of issues with our ears. I mean, we feel the pressure sometimes from when our ears popping. Same thing with our pets.
Yes,
So, what are some of the
same thing.
first signs that show, like, oh, we have an ear issue? I mentioned the shaking earlier, but that's the first thing that came to my mind. But what else can we look out for?
So the first thing you're gonna see is them shaking their head. It's just like a person. They can't touch their ear, but it hurts. So they're shaking it. You'll see them paw at it, like they feel like there's something in there, or rubbing their head on the carpet or the ground, or if you see your dogs like rubbing, or even their cats rubbing their ears or their face on the walls, just anything to try and scratch at it, they're gonna start do that. And it can perpetuate to where it can get more painful too. So if all of a sudden, like they're not eating, or they just feel cruddy, or their ears feel really hot, that can be a sign that there's some infection brewing.
Okay, and those symptoms, they're pretty similar between both cat and dogs.
Very similar. Cats are more stoic though, so cats will hide it, I feel like, a lot more. So if you notice your cat never shakes their ears and all of a sudden they're shaking them even 2 or 3 times a day, it could be a sign that there's something else more serious, because they are tough creatures and they will hide things until they absolutely can't anymore.
Okay, and so let's say, those symptoms they go unnoticed, and of course this could turn into something quite serious. What kind of escalation are we looking at if we don't treat those issues?
Yeah. First of all, I just want to say, if you think your dog or your cat has an ear infection, I'd be really, really cautious. Don't put anything in their ears. What you don't want to put water, don't put hydrogen peroxide, don't do alcohol. You even really want to be really careful with any of the over the counter products, because the biggest thing that we're worried about as a veterinarian is that eardrum still intact? If that eardrum is ruptured, which can happen much more easier in animals than it can in people, anything you put down in the ear is going to go into that middle ear. If you get any foreign substance that's in that middle ear, they're going to become neurologic, meaning they're going to be stumbling, they're walking around, ataxic, they can go deaf. And some of these changes can be permanent. So my big warning sign today is just, if you think your dog or cat has an ear infection, don't put anything in it. And I'd be really careful if you clean your dog's ears. Don't use any Q-tips. You can rupture the eardrum, just by putting a Q-tip too far down in there. You can do no damage with your finger. So your finger's okay. So, cotton ball or gauze, fingers are safe. That's my rule of thumb. Just no Q-tips, and don't put anything in there if you're not sure that eardrum's intact.
What are some of the like most common things that you're used to seeing, most likely, and I'm sure that's why you brought it up, people trying to treat at home? Is that a
Yeah.
possibility, or is it you'd rather take it to a
You
professional?
You just got to be really careful. The ear canals are very sensitive, and there's almost everything over the counter can be ototoxic, meaning toxic to that ear, creating deafness. And even some of even the medications we use can cause issues. So, but that's why a doctor we're always going to look in the ear, what we call an otoscope or a scope, to see that eardrum, make sure it's intact. Because if it's not intact, I'm very limited even on what I have that's safe. So I would just be really, really cautious if you're going to do anything over the counter. Lots of times, if you have a pet that has more chronic ear infections, or you're wanting something to kind of use in between, or maybe after they get a bath, your veterinarian can prescribe a ear cleaner that has some more safer ingredients in it. And just always be cautious. If you see any neurologic signs, don't touch the ear.
Okay. So that's what treatments would usually look like, is something either
Yes.
provided or done inside the clinic. Okay.
Mhm.
Is there a particular patient that had an ear infection that really sticks with you, or one that's just kind of it's kind of like oh, that's a great example of what not to do, or how you've been able to treat
Yeah.
something? Give me a fun story.
Yeah, I mean, we see a lot. We definitely see a lot. I think a fun story is that, you always want to look inside the ear just to see what type of infection is brewing, make sure that eardrum is intact. And, your veterinarian's also making sure there's no foreign material or anything like that. I had a dog one time, a big, lovable golden retriever, had a family, some young kids, and there was a Barbie shoe stuck in the ear canal that was perpetuating an ear infection. So, there can be things that are stuck in there that can be creating the infection too. So, grass-ons, pieces of stick, we see stuff like that all the time. So, I think it's always good to make sure there's nothing in there before you're just, sticking more stuff in that ear canal.
Right, right. A Barbie doll shoe. Oh my
Yes.
goodness, bless. Well, thankfully they did the right thing like you're talking about, taking us through the right steps. They went to their vet, you went in there, checked it all out, and you were able to find it safely without hurting
Yeah.
anybody. Yeah, that's awesome. Goodness. Okay, so we're learning quite a bit here. Is there anything you want us to really know, or just things we haven't touched on when it comes to ear infections or just ear care in general?
I think that I'll just be real honest. Some dogs will have, or some cats will have one or two ear infections their whole lifetime and not have very many issues. Unfortunately, some of our friends do have underlying causes to that ear infection. So some dogs and cats suffer from them 2, 3, 4 times a year. If your pet is a chronic sufferer, I would just urge you to talk to your veterinarian about like what options can you do to kind of get down to that root cause. Sometimes we have to culture the ear because they're growing some kind of weird bug. Sometimes there's an underlying allergy that we need to work up. Sometimes there can be some underlying, immune system compromise. Like there's lots of things that can perpetuate ear infection. So unlike people, there can be some more, serious things that can cause it. So just work with your veterinarian because each pet is very, very different. And if you think your pet is having an ear infection, I just urge you to get it checked out earlier than later because if it goes on too long, it can definitely become more serious and that can be much more harder to treat and more pain for your pet.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Doctor. We appreciate always having you on, Dr. Stanaland. Again, Dr. Meredith Stanaland from the Nacogdoches Animal Hospital. We always appreciate you. We hope to see you next time. And of course, where can folks reach out if they have more questions to you specifically?
Yeah, thank you for having me on as always. Again, I'm in Nacogdoches, Texas. The Nacogdoches Animal Hospital. I'm actually sitting in our office of our new building we just moved to this week. So look us up online if you ever need us. We have a Facebook page as well and an Instagram. If you ever have any questions, let us know.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We'll see you. And of course, our vet project is every Thursday at 12:30. And if you ever have any questions, concerns, or topics you want to see brought up with our experts, our veterinarians all across East Texas, let us know. Of course, you can reach out through our Pet Project app, or you can reach out to us directly, news@kltv.com. Say, hey, we haven't talked about fleas in a hot minute. Let's talk about fleas, or, what other kind of issue you'd like to see brought up. Of course, let us know. Our Vet Project, again, every Thursday on East Texas Now at 12:30. I'll see you back here after this quick break here in just a moment.